This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
All right, let's talk local sports. Our roundtable discussion here on Arizona's Family, the Arizona's Family Sports Department, joined by the one, the only, Julia Lopez to my left, Nick King to my right or right across from me. I think we need to name this segment, and I have a couple ideas here that I wanted to workshop before we get into the issues here. How about what did we just see? How's that work?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
We can't beat it.
The other one was try not to curse, because we had that discussion off camera before we came on camera here, and we were discussing whether or not we thought Julia would curse in this beautiful podcast.
So unrelated to anything, I was thinking on the drive in while listening to some Taylor Swift that I really started to like her once she started dropping just very select curse words into some of her songs.
Now,
a couple years ago.
Did you drop Taylor Swift because it's like a thing if you drop Taylor Swift and it builds your following or something? There's some sort of science to that?
Yeah, our numbers are going to be out of control.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Favorite Taylor Swift song before we go?
Honestly, I don't really
I'm over
listen.
it.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't really
yes.
listen.
But what's she doing now? Is she still at Lambeau? All right, let's get into it. First topic of discussion, the officiating last night between the Chiefs and the Packers. Did you see this?
Yes.
What did you think of the horrendous officiating down the stretch? Does the NFL need new officials? Like, how could they not get this right?
What are you going to do, though? As far as any sport, new officials, you're not getting better than what you have, frankly, because nobody wants to do it. Like, not that many people go into it.
Everybody hates you.
Yeah, well, we've seen it at the high school level in the last couple of years and below in grade school and everything. Like, it's hard to find people to actually do it.
Right.
And when you have less qualified people coming up the ranks, like, yeah, the non-pass interference on the Marquez Valdez-Scantling pass was about as bad as I've ever seen.
I think he choked him. I think he hit him with a chokehold.
Gosh, but I mean, I don't know what you're going to do.
It was kind of the weekend of just me being outraged. Like, I was pretty outraged. I was pretty frustrated. I'm a Texas fan, so I'm happy. But I'm also I liked Mike Norvell when he was the offensive coordinator here, and Florida State got hosed.
100%. Yeah, I thought they did everything right, undefeated, Power 5 school, and then they don't get it because their starting quarterback goes down. Like, right. I don't understand the reasoning behind that. It sucks. It stinks, for sure.
Now, if you go over to the tape library, which is like 2 doors down from here, you can see Florida State played Tennessee in the national championship game here back in 97 maybe, and Florida State had their third-string quarterback, and it wasn't even a game worth watching. So you think, hey, the television networks they wanted to put the best matchups on the field, but Here's my contention. They change game times and networks all the time and big matchups that people want to watch. And I know that there are agreements, but the television companies they're running the show here. Why could we not just make 2 more games for this playoff? Couldn't everybody agree to that and be happy?
This was the year to have it.
Right.
Like, there were 8 legitimately good teams this year. I feel bad for Florida State, sure, but part of me is just like, this is college athletics, and this is college football specifically. They've never had a proper way of crowning a national champion and having a 4-team playoff when you have 5 major conferences. Like, it's amazing it took this long for this to not happen. And even 12 teams I still don't get that number. Like, make it 8 or 16, make it a true playoff. I don't like the buys that's going to happen, but yeah, it stinks, but it's on the powers that be in college football, including ACC commissioner, and the playoff could have started this year, right?
Right.
If it wasn't for what they call that?
They hosed themselves.
The ACC and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten's little agreement. I'm drawing a blank on what they called it, but the pact, whatever they had. Anyway, it stinks for the players on Florida State, but it didn't surprise me in the least. We were on the air Saturday night talking about it, and I was like, it's going to be Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama.
Yeah,
like, Florida State is not going to make it because not enough. The one thing that's interesting is that it's not like it's Mississippi State or something, or I should probably pick a non-SEC team, but It's not like it's Louisville. Like Florida State's a brand,
Right.
A national, multiple-time national champion.
In the last 25 years, one of the top 10 teams in college football that has
Yeah.
played for multiple national championships.
That's the part that's a little bit surprising.
Right.
But it was like, they're not going to leave the SEC out. There is no way that happens.
Right.
And watching Florida State, as good as their defense was Saturday night, watching that game and be like, we're not putting this offense up in a 14 playoff.
Well, and I do wonder what happens in a 12-team playoff, because what if Alabama played Georgia in the regular season, and then Alabama somehow played Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then would they play a third time in this 12-team playoff? Everybody's going to lose their mind if that happens.
There's always going to be outrage. Michael Raimondi, when you were on yesterday, Jules.
Where's he? Can we get him in here? How about Justin Pierce?
Yes.
He was like, I can't wait for next year when there's no more discussion because it's a 12-team playoff. And I was like, don't fool yourself. There's going to be just as much discussion about who the 11th seed and the 12th seed and the 13th seed were. Promise you.
What is it going to look like when they play these games at home environments, though? If they have to go to Columbus the first week, where's the spot that's not going to want to host a first-round playoff game? Say if Minnesota gets in and ASU has to go to Minnesota.
Don't they play in a dome now?
I think that they tore that down, the Metrodome. Yeah, it's outdoors. But no, so, I mean, there's a lot to discuss there. But, I kid about ASU. I'm this transfer portal. Apparently, there's meetings about NIL and them trying to raise funds. And you look at all these transfers, and Jalen Conyers transferred, and you're seeing reports today that he might go back to Oklahoma. And you're like, didn't he transfer here from Oklahoma? And he put up his big thank you to ASU, and there it is right there. And you see it up there on your screen. And as you're reading that, I mean, you can tell these guys like playing for Kenny Dillingham, but with the transfers, do they feel like they can win with Kenny Dillingham? Can they get to the NFL? How is ASU in trouble here?
So Jalen Conyers, Jordan Clark, apparently tonight is committed to Notre Dame. I think I just saw that on Twitter. Like the two of them are the two that stand out as being like the faces of this program the last 2 or 3 years. Last 2 years specifically, when they were really bad. And those guys were incredible faces of the program and incredible leaders, talkers, kind of did everything right. And what'd they win? 6 games in 2 years? I don't blame them one bit. Even with the amount of transfers there are every year and the idea that you can turn things around quickly, if they've got 1 year left in college football, They gave it a chance.
They gave it the college try.
Legitimately,
and
they did.
You got to go make your money.
Go somewhere else, even if it's not the money. Actually, that's interesting. Like, I'm sure it is plenty about the money, but I'm sure there's plenty of it too, especially for Jordan Clark. That's just like, I want to go win some games and play in a really special environment and have some fun for my last year.
Right. You concerned at all about ASU next year?
The way that Arizona's been playing, yeah.
That's a good point.
I think so. Jed Fish, he's figured it out. But I do believe in Kenny as well, and I think he has the building blocks for it. And as long as he gets the good transfers to come to ASU after a horrific season, we're going to find out if he can recruit or not. If he can bring him in.
I mean, I think he can. I think he connects with people.
Yeah.
I think you just have to see Rashada and see Bo Nix that people think, okay, this is a good coach who knows how to win games. If he beat UCLA with a swinging gate this year, I mean, that tells you something. My biggest concern here is with this, proposed or thing that's out there with what's left of the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. If you put that together as its own super league, is that going to be strong enough to compete with the Big Ten and the SEC? Are we going to have an all-out arms race in college football? And how much money are you going to need to play collegiate sports with student athletes?
Not enough. There isn't enough here. I don't think so.
I would donate.
Would you?
I just got to pay for club baseball first.
And going to the transfers, like the one that jumped out to me today was BJ Green, who has arguably been their best defensive player this season. Maybe the last two came in as a walk-on. Like, he's still got a couple years left, and for him to leave too, I don't know, man. I don't know what college football, and some players will come back. I guess you can come back once you put your name in the portal. You're seeing what's out there.
Right. I don't. You got to go hit the open market. I mean, you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you've been given this gift, and then if you get hurt, you can't make any money. I totally get it.
And ASU's Kenny will bring dudes in,
right?
But how many is he going to lose? Like, talking about the building blocks, like who's staying here to actually be those building blocks at this point?
Rashada.
Yeah, that might be it.
So far, right?
Yeah.
Is he going to stay?
I think his stock is he needs to rebuild it here. I think he can. I think he's got a lot of ability.
So he rebuilds it for a year and then he transfers
to LSU and wins the Heisman Trophy. Yeah.
Another Jaden story.
I hope he wins the Heisman Trophy. But I mean, part of me is just I'm Joe Ferris behind the glass there. Go Niners. Big ASU guy. He's weeping openly back there. All right, so I think we've hashed out college football, and now the conversation is just turning depressing. But what's not depressing is the Arizona Cardinals over the weekend. Part of me loves the fact that they did this, and part of me is like, what are you doing? Everybody needs to pull an oblique, and like, let's just get to draft day. J-Lo,
I was excited about it. And then, like, immediately when I was excited, Nick was like, maybe that's not a good thing that they won. But honestly, just being a competitor, I love that they're still playing. They're still wanting to win. And they also did it for James Conner for his homecoming there in Pittsburgh, which was honestly just so awesome and a breath of fresh air, especially for this fan base, for the Cardinals. They've been through a lot this season. Right. And for them to, like, celebrate and win, soak it in.
Talk about building blocks as like that's what that kind of win is for Jonathan Gannon and the coaching staff, like going forward. I mean, yeah, the draft stock or the draft selection might take a hit with yesterday's win, but I do think like it's probably more important that they actually are still competing and showing signs.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep flip-flopping back and forth on Kyler Murray until the end of time.
I honestly think yesterday cemented in my mind like he's the guy. I mean, he might be.
Which throw was it?
Just wait until next week.
Right. Well, I mean, when balls get batted down, but I just look. There's so many holes in this roster. I think quarterback. If you have a quarterback, keep him. It's going to be. I mean, maybe you could trade him to. What were we saying today? Were we having this discussion to Atlanta, maybe, or maybe it was Joe to Atlanta. If you have a guy who could be a franchise quarterback, keep him. Build around him. There might be limitations there, but I think Jonathan Gannon and the staff, like Kenny Dillingham and his staff, have shown they know how to win football games. Like, these are some really intelligent football coaches. And, I mean, I guess it just comes down to if they believe in Kyler and the situations they're going to put him in. I think you got to go try to be competitive against the Niners and see what you have. But the roster's not there yet, so that's probably a loss. You have the Bears on Christmas Eve. But you also have the Eagles and the Seahawks on the schedule. I wonder if they are sitting in the offices right now and saying we need to get really competitive here down the stretch for building blocks for next year, because I do think momentum would carry you to next year.
I agree with you when it comes to Kyler. The throw that just is cemented in my mind is the one to Rondale Moore that didn't count in the end zone. That was a beautifully
over Patrick
placed,
Peterson.
Yeah,
yep.
Beautifully placed ball. And then there was a holding, and it was called back. But that throw was just like, okay, he still has it. He is the guy. And when you obviously add, the running in there, it's going to be awesome. And obviously they've dealt with so many injuries as well. Like they have been hit hard on offense and defense, O-line especially too. And I just want to give a shout out to Paris Johnson Jr. too. He was phenomenal over there yesterday, competing with TJ Watt, going like toe to toe. That was awesome to see. But yeah, I'm with Mark. I think K1's the guy.
That's because he was wearing your jacket yesterday.
He was getting ready to go to Vail, I think. He was on his way to Vail or Aspen.
No, I didn't. Is it? It's probably too late to pull it up on the iPad. Had I known this, we would have. Would you tweet that out later and show the masses?
Yeah, well, it's somewhere. I'll show Mark.
Okay, I was thinking about this with Kyler today, though, and I like Kyler. And I would love to see it work out. And with what they've invested already, and I agree with you, I believe in Gannon and Petzing and what they could do with him. But the easy comparison has been DeAndre Ayton for a while because they were number one picks, kind of mercurial personalities. How many times over DA's career in Phoenix did you change your mind about what he was or what he could be? Because it'd be like, he's not physical enough.
Sorry,
Kyler's jacket.
Here, hold it up for the camera there.
Where is it?
Let's go to 3. Take camera 3. Maybe, you might have to walk over there. Maybe
You
1.
kind of see it.
Okay, so let's continue the discussion. There we go.
The puffy jacket with the beanie. It's so cool.
I think at some point, though, you got to a point where you're like, Monty and DA aren't working. One of them needs to go.
But then they both went.
Right. And
So that's like with
Yeah.
Kyler and Cliff. Yes,
Right.
Cliff went.
But you couldn't get rid of Kyler, or I think they probably would have. But I think you're seeing, hey, this works with his coaching staff. It's just, what's the ceiling there? What's the coaching staff feel like the
Maybe.
ceiling is?
But the game before against the Rams was like, oh, this is like the other Kyler that feels a little bit like the Kyler in the playoffs against the Rams.
But why they stopped running the ball?
Yeah.
That's my conspiracy theory of, let's get to draft day.
But what about yesterday?
I think that they have so much respect for James Conner that they were going to let him have that moment.
So they won it for Connor.
Right. But then, what do you do? What do you do going forward
With Kyler?
with the rest of the
with
season?
the rest of the season?
Do you try to build the momentum for the rest of the year, or do you conveniently not give the ball to James Conner?
All right, where are the standings at?
Well, as
How
you look
much-
those
how
up,
much room do
you
you
have
have?
some sound from Kyler, right?
Yeah.
What did he have to say? Here, can you set this up?
Oh,
Yes, we have
Well,
it back there.
34-hour and 18-minute game in the rain. Right?
That was the stat?
it
That's
was
how
like
long
the
the game was.
longest. It was the longest Cardinals game post in Super Bowl era.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy.
So this is what Kyler had to say after that?
Yes.
All right. Can we take a listen?
Super proud of the guys. The external factors of having to deal with something like that. I forgot who I was talking to with 5 years in the league, never having to, really playing football in general, never having to do something like this. But I'm super proud of the guys, the way, the mentality coming back in. They were all geeked up, all ready to go. There was no expectation other than coming out here with a win. So to do that, in the hostile environment that this is, great team, is a huge win.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those okay, they know what they're doing. I've seen enough. Cancel the rest of the season.
Things do get dicey if you keep winning, though.
Yeah.
Cardinals have 3 wins right now, third worst record. The Commanders, the Bears, the Giants, who are all really bad, the Jets, the Titans, those 5 teams all have 4 wins. So you win one more game, all of a sudden you're probably even with a bunch of them. So you could slide from 3rd to 7th or 8th with a couple of wins pretty quickly.
Well, you're not winning this week because you're not playing.
Not beating the Niners.
No, not beating the Niners. Bad weather in Chicago. Justin Fields is kind of playing for something, right? I mean, they beat the Vikings the other night, so.
But that's winnable for
yeah.
sure.
And then it's the
is
Eagles
not
not winning
winnable.
that, and then finish with the Seahawks.
They'll be fighting to try to get in. That's, you know what? It's time for my favorite guy, Clayton.
He was waiting to do
Yes,
that.
yes. All right, I gotta go. I'll see you. Yeah. Let's wrap this up.
You might actually have to go.
Yes. All right. So I think that's it. We'll pick up that conversation next week on what did we just see. Are we going to curse? Last topic of discussion: high school football's in the books. Fantastic year. J-Lo, you were out there all weekend. How was it? Besides John Gustafson's
She brought a
back
tent.
I was
lines.
going to say R.I.P. to Gus's back.
Yes. We need to get him in here on the floor, and we'll walk across his back. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Honestly, Arizona high school football is just so much fun, and it's growing, and the talent pool is just phenomenal, and a lot of these guys are going to D1, and I wish a lot more were coming to ASU
Right.
and U of A so we can actually cover them here. But yeah, no, there's definitely Navi Bruzon. Can we just talk about him?
Right.
Liberty
Why aren't people on him? I feel like he's Brock Purdy.
Yeah. Underrated.
Yeah.
Smaller
Undersized.
build. Yeah.
Yep.
But he's smart. He's intelligent. He can run the ball. He has accuracy. He's got an arm. I don't understand. And a good leader. I don't understand it.
I was happy for Liberty because I think they've been the actual best team in the state for 3 years running and just had some crushing playoff losses the last couple of seasons.
4th down against Saguaro, kind of ran. Just they had Chandler at home and bad punt and got beaten overtime. No, congratulations to Liberty. They were on Good Morning Arizona this morning. It was so fun to see that.
Nice.
Saguaro put things back together after some transition in Zach Hill. So Saguaro's a state champion, and not in the Open, but still that's a heck of an accomplishment because they played a great schedule.
Their 14th. State title.
Yeah.
One shy of Blue Ridge's Arizona State record.
Yeah, Blue Ridge has got to put it back together up there. Get some transfers up to the White Mountains. You were there on Saturday night for one of the craziest games we've ever seen.
Friday night,
yes.
Yeah, the 5A state championship between Desert Ridge. There's so many desert schools.
How many schools are named after deserts?
That was in Albuquerque, Desert Ridge.
Yeah, there's one here, and there's a shopping center. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they're in very different places.
Yes.
Aren't they?
Desert Edge Scorpions versus Higley. Yeah, so that was a crazy, crazy game. So Higley was up big time. They was up like 42-13. And then here comes Desert Edge in the third quarter, scores a touchdown, scores
that was like
another.
11:45 at night.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was after the fight?
Yes, it was after the fight. So Desert Edge loses 16 players.
Unbelievable.
And they're playing with their JV defense, basically, is what the coaches told us. And, so they were able to come all the way back. They score a touchdown, and it's 42-41. They go for 2 in the win. They get it, but then a late flag says that there was holding on the offensive line, so that doesn't count. They go back 15 yards, and then they go for 2 again, and they don't get it. And that was the most heartbreaking moment that I've ever been to, honestly, at the end of a football game.
In your life?
Football game here in Arizona. Not my soccer days, but yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, we're going to need the video for next one to put up Julia's goal in the state championship right there. This has to happen. Okay, so you talked to the Carters. That's on your social media right now. A really great conversation. The two brothers who coach Desert Edge. But let's finish it off because I got to get to club baseball and pick up some kids. You talked to Navi Bruzon as well after the Liberty game. So let's hear from the man that we think could be the next Brock Purdy.
To finally get over the hump and then actually win the Open is up, like, it's insane. I don't know how to describe feeling. It's just joy and overwhelm my body. And yeah, I love these guys.
He's a great leader.
Yep.
We're gonna miss him.
Happy for the Lions. We were going to use their graphic yesterday because we didn't have one in
For the Detroit Lions?
for the Liberty Flames.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, they're kind of the same.
It
Similar.
is similar, yeah.
Yes. And we have not talked about that, but let's table that till next week because we
got
get
some
more
time on
information
that.
on the Fiesta Bowl. So, never a dull moment here in the Valley of the Sports. We're gonna try to get back here every Monday night and chop it up in our "What Did We Just See?" Try not to swear segment. Yeah, good stuff.
We said this on August 29th also that we were going to try to do it every Monday.
Well, and then the D-backs went to the World
And then
Series.
life happens.
Yes. Well, it's good stuff. We'll see you next week. The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.